Welcome, one and all, to this special edition of the Sport Fanatics podcast. My name is J. Mike.
And I'm Chris.
And without further ado, let's get that theme music started.
Ba-da-da-bum-bum.
Well, all right. We've got a special show in store for you today here on Sport Fanatics podcast. And we're going to really touch and dive into Chris's playing days and also how his sports fandom came about.
Yeah, there was a lot more fandom than playing, to be fair, but yeah, they'll both be in there.
Well, I'm sure our listeners will see what interesting stories that you can share with us with your playing days and your sports fandom. So, without further ado, Chris, I'm gonna hand it over to you.
All right, well, cool. Yeah, we're recording these early because I'm going to be out of town for a few days, so not going to be able to record like usual, but we kind of wanted to get these out of the way anyway. J. Mike talked about his history a bit, and
yes,
so now I'll get into mine. So, born in 1992. I remember my dad watching a lot of sports, of course, on TV, but mostly baseball and football. Those are the two main things. As far as baseball, he had watched the Yankees a lot, of course. He grew up a Yankees fan. He grew up following baseball in the 60s, and one of the easiest teams to follow is the Yankees because Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris. So that's how he became a Yankees fan, and he just kept following them all through the years. They were always on in the 90s. On the football side of things, he grew up, well, when he was a teenager, I guess, he was a Archie Manning fan. So when I was little, he was always watching Peyton first when he was at Tennessee, and then, of course, when he went to the Colts, he kept watching Peyton as well. So the Yankees and Peyton Manning were always on TV, but to be honest, for a lot of the time there, I really didn't care that much. I really wasn't all that interested in what was going on. I did enjoy playing outside. So, we'd play pitch outside, or I'd, swing a bat a little bit or whatever. But at first, I wasn't really all that interested. Now, things changed around 1999. I don't remember what came first, if I played T-ball first or if I started watching the Yankees and caring first. But in any case, in 1999, my family went to New York and saw a lot of great things, of course. Saw the Statue of Liberty and even got to see the World Trade Center before 9/11 happened. So that's cool to look back on.
And that's always been a place that I have always wanted to visit and catch a ball game at.
Well, and we were talking about this before the pandemic. We were wanting to go at some point and try to watch a Yankees game and a Mets game.
That's right.
At this, the same weekend or week or whatever. That'd be a lot of fun. But yeah, we went there, and of course, my dad being a huge Yankees fan, a big part of the trip was we visited Yankee Stadium, and they have a museum tour you can do. And we got to visit, of course, when none of the players were there. We got to see the clubhouse and go out to Monument Park at the old Yankee Stadium and everything. So we got a tour around the innards of old Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, people, you heard that right. Old Yankee Stadium.
Yeah.
Classic Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, the original post renovation, but still the original Yankee Stadium.
Man, I bet that was neat.
Oh yeah, well, and that combined with we went to a game. I have the date here. It was July 24th, 1999. Went to see the Yankees, and they were playing the Indians.
That's right. I remember you telling me this story.
Yeah, they won 21-1. The Yankees did, and it's not like that Indians team was a slouch. The Yankees at this point were 59-37, and the Indians were 58-39. So they were like evenly matched.
Yeah,
records,
but not that particular day.
No, and the other games in this series were super close. They were like 2-1 and close games. But yeah, this one was a blowout. And some amazing players on both these teams. I'll start out with the Indians just because I got to finish with the Yankees. But
okay.
On this Indians team, you had Kenny Lofton,
yes,
Omar Vizcaíno,
oh man,
Roberto Alomar, Alex Ramirez, Manny Ramirez, Richie Sexton, David Justice, Jim Thome,
good grief,
Jacob Cruz, like so many players that I remember from my childhood were on that team,
and they never won a World Series, Chris.
No, that was such a young
with that
team that
squad.
Was set to go. But yeah, they couldn't get over that hump. MVP for him that day was Jacob Cruz. He got 3 for 4. But, of course, that didn't mean much, losing 21-1.
Yeah, scoring only 1 run.
Pitching for him was Mark Langston, starting pitcher, which
I have never heard of him, Chris.
I don't remember him.
Sounds like he'd be a lefty, though.
Let me see. It'd be funny if he was, man.
Sounds like
he was a lefty.
How about that? How about that, Chris? With a name like that, I just knew he had to be a southpaw. Mark Langston. I mean, come on. The name just screams southpaw to me.
What a coincidence. Wow, he's 60 years old now. Okay.
But let's just say, Chris, he got lit up that day.
He did. He had, I believe, 7 earned runs. Let me check.
And I'm not talking about turned up, folks. I'm talking about his butt was grass, if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah, let's get into the Yankees lineup that day. Chuck Knobloch.
Wow.
This was before he was going downhill.
What, I completely forgot he had a stint with the Yankees.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I just always remember him being a Minnesota Twin.
Okay. Well, yeah,
I forgot he had that stint with the Yankees though. So that's really neat.
Yeah, I remember him being there from the beginning when I started watching baseball.
Watching the Yankees.
He was with the Yankees.
Okay.
Of course, next Derek Jeter.
Was Paul O'Neill on that team?
Paul O'Neill.
Still? Okay.
Bernie Williams, Chili Davis, Tino Martinez.
Chili Davis, who's actually a hitting coach right now in the major leagues, actually used to be the hitting coach of my favorite team, the Chicago Cubs.
Well, and I'm going to get back to him here in a second because interesting
great.
stat here. But then, Tino Martinez.
I watched a lot of Tino.
Scott Brocious, Jorge Posada.
Oh, man, I loved Jorge Posada.
The only one here I don't remember quite as much, Chad Curtis. I mean, the name is familiar, but I don't remember as much about him.
Wonder if he was a lefty as well.
Well, he's in left field.
Man, how about this, man?
The pitcher for the Yankees was Hideki Irabu.
Wow, what a name.
The name kind of rings a bell, but I can't say I remember him like I do a lot of the pitchers for the Yankees at that time.
He sounds like he'd be a lefty as well.
Let me check. What if he was?
Oh, man. I might be wrong for once. But
yeah, he was a right-handed thrower.
I went 2 for 3.
He played from 97 to 2002.
Wow, not a long career at all.
No.
But hey,
But he was on the 97, 98, 99 Yankees team, so you know what?
hey, he got his rings.
Yeah.
He got his championship.
But of course, this being such a blowout, some of those guys that I mentioned for the Indians, they were substitutions. Enrique Wilson, Alex Ramirez, Richie Sexton, they came off the bench to.
Did you say Richie Sexton or Sexton?
No, Sexton.
Sexton?
Yeah, not Sexton.
Okay, not the one that played for the Brewers.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was fixing to be like, they had him
No. Yeah.
starting out his career
When I
with
first
the
read
Indians?
it, I was like, "Oh, wait a minute!" But no, yeah,
Yeah, because I mean, Richie Sexton, he was the best hitter for the Brewers at that time.
oh yeah, he was something.
And I remember him. I remember him and Sammy Sosa duking it out in the home run derby one year.
Oh yeah,
Just going back and
That's
forth,
right.
man.
oh man,
And Sammy ended up winning that home run derby, but man,
I
they
remember that
went
year.
back and forth.
yeah.
But I just wanted you to clarify that for me because I was fixing to be like, okay, they had a young Richie Sexton.
No, no.
Okay,
Now for the Yankees, now here's one of my favorite players for the Yankees who was never a star or anything, but he was a really likable guy. He came in to replace Derek Jeter when the game got out of hand.
yeah,
Louis Soho. I don't know if you remember him, but he was.
I don't.
He was like a guy on those early Yankees teams who would just come off the bench and sometimes have these clutch hits when they needed him to. I mean, it was just the magic
Okay.
of those Yankees teams. And a guy who replaced Paul O'Neill at some point, Ricky Leday, who was also a young guy who was on those Yankees teams. Let me see when he started out, actually, out of curiosity. Yeah, he started, his rookie year was 98, so he was a young guy, and he played until 2007. But I remember him being on those Yankee teams. But
Was David Cone the one-arm pitcher? Was he on?
oh well, that's not David Cone. David Cone was on this team.
I mean, my bad.
I know who you're thinking of.
Gosh, I'm sorry, Chris.
Oh, what was his?
He was a lefty, but that was the only
Jim Abbott.
Jim Abbott. That's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
I don't remember if he was.
Speaking of lefties, we're on a trend here.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Let me see what team he was with in 99. I don't think he was with the Yankees anymore.
But was David Cone on that
yes
99
Which
team?
I was about
Okay.
to mention him something real quick.
Well, go ahead, Chris.
I want to see this real quick with
About Abbott.
with Jim Abbott. Yeah, what team? 99 Abbott was with the Brewers.
Wow.
It was actually his last season.
There's just a lot of irony going on. We just talked about Richie Sexton
A lot of coincidences here.
with the Milwaukee Brewers, and now Abbott comes over to the Yankees from Milwaukee,
Mm.
and then we got Milwaukee Bucks still in the NBA Finals, trying to win their first championship since 1971.
Oh yeah. What I was going to mention about David Cone, this was actually 6 days after he threw his perfect game in 1999.
See that's why I got both of them confused right there.
Yeah,
That's
the perfect
because
game.
I remember Cone throwing the perfect game.
So if we had gone to the stadium 6 days earlier, we would have happened to have saw that perfect game. But it still
Man,
got a pretty memorable experience here with the 21-1.
that's absolute shellacking right there, as I like to call it.
Which the best I said I was going to mention Chili Davis later. He had the best game on this day. He was 5
Really?
He was 5 for 6
Good Lord.
with 6 RBIs.
Good grief.
He went off.
I wonder if he had a grand salami
Oh, let me see. Home run
or maybe a 3-run homer.
Well, he did hit a home run.
Yeah. I mean, if he went, what'd you say? 5
there were
for
2
6?
on. There were 2 on.
3-run homer.
Yeah. The only Yankee player who didn't have a hit is one of my favorite Yankee players, Paul O'Neill. He was the only one not to have a hit today on this day.
That's crazy.
Derek Jeter went 1 for 3. He ended up
Okay.
well. So to continue this, after this experience at Yankee Stadium and then going to see the game, that was when I started paying attention to sports for the first time because I actually started to care about watching the Yankees.
Yeah. Yeah.
So soon thereafter, Derek Jeter became my favorite player because, I mean, of course, he was the star on the team and everybody talked about Jeter, but he also just had that personality that was so easy to like, and he was so clutch and was just did so much for the team that Jeter became my favorite player. But man, I also loved Paul O'Neill, Bernie Williams, Tino Martinez, Scott Brosius, Posada.
Yeah.
Those were just an amazing group of players on those early Yankees teams that I was watching.
That was Clemens' first stint with the Yankees, correct?
Yeah, he joined somewhere around this time. Let me check real quick.
Or was he still with the Red Sox?
I can't remember what. I know he was there in 2000. Let me see.
So
yeah, he was 1999 was his first year with the Yankees.
Well, how
That's
about
right.
that? And
he had that brief 2-year stint in Toronto between the Red Sox.
That's right.
And
I had that in my mind, which same thing happened to Pedro Martinez. He went from Montreal to Boston.
Oh, yeah.
So that's kind of crazy because you and I both know that both of those cats dueled it out in some big time games in the playoffs between those two arch rivals in the Red Sox and Yankees. But when did Andy Pettitte get in the fold? Was it the following year or in 01?
He was there in 2000.
Because I know in, what was it, 03 and 04 when Clemens and Pettitte both joined the Houston Astros?
Yeah, the Pettitte came up. He debuted his rookie year with the Yankees in 95.
Wow. See, I never knew it was that.
And he was there until, of course, 2004. He went to Houston, and then he came back to finish his year with the Yankees after that.
Right. Uh-huh.
But yeah, that was another guy. I loved Andy Pettitte, and even after
and
all the steroid stuff came out, he was he kind of admitted, and he was nice about it, and which made me feel good, unlike some players.
And was that Mariano Rivera's debut season with the Yankees, or did he debut before?
No, he was around that. He was in the early 90s when he
early 90s. Okay.
Yeah, it was also 95, so same year.
Wow. Okay.
And I remember. I mean, I don't remember at the time, but I remember hearing recently when he was like going into the Hall of Fame and everything, and I learned later that he was more. He was scouted as a starter, and it just wasn't really working out all that well. And like his first season,
well, he mainly threw only 2 pitches, right?
Yeah,
2 or 3 pitches,
and
the main one being that devastating cutter.
And it was shortly after he came up in the majors. They were like, work on that cutter.
Yes.
And made him a closer.
That was his primary go-to pitch to strike your butt out.
Yeah, and that, of course, changed his career. And, of course, I didn't get to see Mariano Rivera in this 21 to
yeah, that wasn't going to happen, brother.
So, but, yeah, that game made me pay attention. I still don't remember a whole lot of the 1999 season. Like, I may have been so young that I didn't get to stay up late to watch the World Series much that year because I don't really remember that series with the Braves much. But 2000, I remember very well, and especially that Subway Series with the Mets. I remember watching every game of that series. So it was mid 1999, I started getting into baseball, and by 2000, I was really watching it and keeping up with the Yankees. And is around this time as well. Again, I don't know if it was before my first watching that first baseball game or after, but I was playing T-ball. And, I mean, T-ball is T-ball. You just
hit it off the tee.
Hit it off the tee and then learn the fundamentals out in the field. So there's not many great memories I have with that, except, I mean, I just enjoyed just being outside.
And you hope when you attempt to hit it off the tee that you don't totally miss it, or you just hit that little dribbler that just falls.
Yeah.
And doesn't go anywhere hardly,
or hit the base of
just go straight down
tee and knock it straight down. Basically,
that too. I did that quite a few times where I just knocked the crap out of the tee, and the tee went down or it went flying.
Well, and while we're talking about baseball, I guess I'll finish talking about the only game I ever played was baseball. And
okay,
of course, after T-ball, there's coach pitch.
Yes.
And coach pitch was when I got my first experience with getting hit by the ball, because I don't know if it's because I was like my arms were so long or what, but there were multiple times where I'd get hit in the hands.
Ooh.
Like in coach pitch, and that hurts. Like getting hit in the fingers is
my
so
gosh.
painful. Never really learned to hit very well, even through coach pitch. I just was never good at the plate. Now, looking back, when I got older, I did start to wear glasses, so maybe I was like Wild Thing in Major League, and I needed glasses and just didn't know it. But
okay,
but yeah, but no, I mean, I just never had a good fundamental swing or anything, I'm sure. So,
well, I'm not gonna lie to you, Chris. And I touched on this on my playing days whenever I did play on that other show, but whenever I started wearing glasses and they finally let me pitch, I'm glad you brought that up, because I never said anything about this, but when that happened, just everything came together with me on the mound, and so that was also a part of my success.
Yeah, I mean, it can make a huge difference. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, vision is everything.
Yeah, well,
it's a major part,
especially when you have a relatively small white ball like in baseball, man.
Yeah, and your catcher is a good distance away from you, holding that glove up, and you.
Well, if you're a batter, it's good to be able to see the stitching to see how the ball's rotating.
Spinning, yeah.
But of course, after coach pitch came fast pitch when the kids were actually throwing, and I'm not gonna lie, that kind of terrified me, little league me, just because I'm like, I know I'm a stupid kid, and all these stupid kids are about to be throwing this ball towards me.
Yeah,
so,
or in any possible direction.
Yeah, so. That really did not improve my hitting game at all, because now I was even more like, I guess, nervous and unsure at the plate.
Yeah, plus timing. Yeah, you're gonna have timing issues too if you're not working on it consistently.
I only had 1 year in fast pitch, and it was the year where J. Mike and I were on the same team. We played at Applebee's.
That's how we first met.
And I mean, no slander against Applebee's, but we just unfortunately, we really never learned fundamentals for hitting.
No, we did not.
No,
no, we didn't. People, Chris knows where I'm going with this. We literally had two guys that worked at Applebee's. I'm sorry, Chris. This is just funny looking back on it now.
Yeah.
We had two guys that coached that team that literally worked at Applebee's that didn't know a darn thing about the game of baseball and how to play it and or teach it to these stupid young kids like both of us. And we're just sitting there begging to be taught and learn how to play the game, and they're just doing like this little gosh, what would you call it? Some kind of a stupid, I don't know, Sesame Street way to play it.
I don't know.
First, you
Like-
put your glove down.
Well,
The ball rolls towards your glove.
well, and I remember they did
Using
tell us
the
to.
glove.
I do remember
You know,
one thing they told us to do was like attack the ball if you're in the infield or outfield or whatever. Like if it's rolling to you, run at it and don't just wait on it. So
Well, yeah.
I guess a little bit of props there. I mean, I remember defensively we were okay actually, at least from my memory.
Wow, I'd say I don't even remember that.
Because like I remember some other teams, like the only other team we beat, which was the team our good friend Corey played
Corey
on.
Patterson. Shout out, Corey.
Yeah.
Corey.
He was on a team where he said that they had players who would like pick at the grass and stuff.
Didn't he play for like the concrete
I think so.
advertised team,
I
like
think-
B&B Concrete?
Something like that.
Because
think.
I remember that team. That because you and I on that team, it seemed like we always played on that Boo Ferris field, and that's
Mhm.
also where we had our practices at. They're in
By the swimming.
Joyner.
Yeah.
They're on Joyner and Tupelo,
Right.
and yeah, I want to say he was on that B&B Concrete
Yeah. Well, they
team.
were the only team that was worse than us because
Yeah.
the only thing we had above them was we actually played competent defense, especially when I was, for me personally, when I was in the outfield. That was like the place I was most comfortable. They tried one game where they put me at catcher, and I hated it. It was the worst. I don't know why you put one of the tallest players on your team as catcher, but
Once again, Chris, those guys made no sense.
but
They did not know what they were doing half the time. They had no business coach. Little.
but yeah, I don't think I maybe had like one hit the whole season. Man, it was bad at the plate.
Those guys were
bad.
nice. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, no.
they were super nice.
That's why I say no slander. They were
And
nice, and
I'm not gonna lie to you. I can't even remember how old we were, but I remember thinking to myself, if they're this nice to us out on the field, then Applebee's must have some great customer service in their restaurant.
maybe that's the thing. They didn't want to like scare any of us away from eating at Applebee's.
Well, that's true because we ended up having our end of the season
And they had
reception there.
They had our photo up there at the entrance
sure
for
did.
years afterward.
I wonder if it's still there.
I don't know. We need to look one day and see.
Well, you know, you and myself and our other two friends, we normally eat out on Wednesday, so we might have to go to Applebee's
yeah,
sometime to see if it's there.
Just
Now,
one
I
day.
have heard, and this is crazy that we're talking about Applebee's, but you already know how you and I had been in Chili's, and it's been very difficult
oh yeah,
to be waited on there because they have a staff shortage.
yeah.
I heard Applebee's is the same way. So
Might have to show up
yeah.
at like 4:00.
so I don't know whatever happened to those two coaches of ours, but they're definitely not at Applebee's these days. They have moved on with their life. I hope they ended up getting some great paying jobs.
Yeah, hopefully they're doing.
You know
well.
something, Chris? I wonder if they were actually still in school because if I remember correctly, I thought at least one of them was.
Oh,
maybe,
really?
Maybe they were college.
See, I barely
students.
even remember how old they were because I mean, when you're a little kid,
They were young,
When
no
you're-
doubt.
when I was a little kid, it felt like every adult was just old, like older than me. So I didn't really, I don't register in my memory how old they were.
Yeah.
But yeah, looking back, I think they were younger guys, and
But see, you and I have been brothers, friends ever since. So.
oh yeah, we've known each other well since then. And I remember,
I remember you and I this is before we finally had a class together during school. You and I had some kind of remember those summer camps that were a week long?
yeah,
You and I were in one of those camps.
oh yeah,
We were in like that classroom.
I had so much fun in them. I'm trying to remember what that was.
It was either the science one or the computer one because those are the two that I did.
yeah, it was. I usually did science ones.
I did
so.
I was fixing to say Silence of the Lambs.
Oh my god, that
Hello.
terrifying class.
evening, Chris.
Just skin people in there. Like,
Science. There we go. Science. Like she blinded me from science.
Uh-huh.
But science, the science one was at Milam.
Oh yeah, I went to one at Milam.
So that must have been it, because
that had to be it.
The computer one I did was at Pierce Street.
I don't think I went there. So it had to be the one at Milam.
Yeah, so it must have been that science.
But yeah,
but see, I remember that's how both of us reconnected. Because you and I never went to lower elementary together. Because you went to Church Street, right? And I went to Thomas Street.
Church Street and then Lawndale.
And then, yeah, we both went to Lawndale, but I didn't have a class with you until our last grade there.
Right.
At Lawndale, which was 6th grade.
Which, that kind of goes into playing again. The only other time I really played, like, after that one season of fast pitch, I kind of got fed up, and I didn't really have interest to play anymore, because I knew I wasn't, like, a super athletic kid anyway. I
wasn't either.
Yeah, so I wasn't that worried about it. It wasn't like I was bitter over anything. I just knew it wasn't for me. And also, man, I have that memory of you getting drilled.
Yes.
Was it in the chest?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was in the chest.
I remember seeing that happen. I was like, oh my gosh, it was awful. It like knocked the wind out of you, I guess.
It did. I went down, and I was literally on my back there for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, it was scary.
I remember you, Corey Patterson, our good buddy, checked up on me, and Brad McWhirter, who was on Corey's team, he checked up on me as well, because ironically enough, he and I were in the same class that year in 3rd grade.
Oh, so coincidence.
Or we were in that same pod one, because at Thomas Street we swapped between 2 teachers, but one of them was your homeroom teacher, and then the other one taught the other subjects that the homeroom teacher wasn't teaching, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, common sense there, but then when we got to Lawndale, we had those pods where it was 3 teachers, and they divided the subjects up between the 3.
Right.
But yeah, like you said, man, I did get drilled that one game.
And I think that was toward the end of the season.
And ironically, once again, it was against Corey's team, which
we won that game.
I want to say was that B&B Concrete team.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, after that season,
I can't even remember though if I probably just sat on the bench the rest of the game. I think that's what happened.
Probably.
But knowing those 2 idiots, they probably put me right back out there. Nothing against those guys. Those guys really were nice to us.
Yeah. Yeah, they're great guys.
And that's probably the best customer service that Applebee's has ever had, because let me tell you, Chris, they're having a hard time getting employees now.
So yeah, after that experience, I just the only sports I played were at recess. So like kickball, dodgeball, and PE, which I won one game of dodgeball in PE in elementary school. I was so proud of myself. I was the last man standing, or last boy standing.
I think we played that at Lawndale too.
Yeah, well, that's at Lawndale. I was the last one standing in one game of dodgeball.
That must have been before we had the class together.
Probably. I think it was early on. But
I'm not going to lie, though. That last year we were there at Lawndale, that was the best PE that I ever had, because we had Coach Hadley. And
oh, yeah. He was awesome.
Coach Hadley had some – shout out to Coach Hadley from Tupelo, former Mississippi State player back in the day.
And he
used to give me heck, Chris. You remember that? Used to give me heck every day because I'd be wearing my Ole Miss stuff. He'd say, McBunch, why you got all that crappy Ole Miss stuff on?
And that sounds like.
I mean, he used to hound me on that every single time. But he would love picking with me.
Well,
and I ended up being,
well, yeah, he was
being
an awesome
really
dude.
tight.
And he
had a lot of fun activities for us to do. That's for sure.
He played wide receiver at
State.
In the indoor football.
That's right.
Teams the Fire Ants and the Mudcats.
Him and
played
Coach
both of
Carter, who Coach Carter's now the head coach for Shannon Red Raider football.
Oh yeah.
Doing an exceptional job there. So shout outs to Coach Hadley and Coach Carter.
Yeah. So
Sure do miss you guys.
yeah, y'all were awesome. So
Yeah, y'all.
thanks for the memories.
Absolutely, y'all. And both of them were at Lawndale, I might add.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Coach Carter is like in an administrative role, but man, was he awesome! Just they absolutely were a part of what made Lawndale fun for sure. Because we all know it's not fun in the classroom, but those guys just taking you out for a break, during the day was always something that I looked forward to. I know you probably look forward to it as well.
Oh, yeah. Well, and then we touched on this last time, but the last thing, I mean, at recess, we'd usually play just some football, but I mean, it was never super serious.
Man,
but
that was
we had
fun.
a lot of fun with that.
That was fun. Like you'd be all-time quarterback, and I'd be like a wide receiver or tight end. You and I'd always have that connection on point.
Yeah, and it was fun when we could
pitch and catch, man.
When we could play with each other against other guys, and then
yeah. I remember somebody was talking some smack to me, and I think we're in the huddle. I said, Chris, just throw it to me. I'm fixing to score here. I'm fixing to shut this guy up. You threw it to me. I scored, and I remember spiking the heck out of that football and yell and screaming or something like that. And Ryan Moore came up and was like, man, yeah, that's what I'm talking about, John Michael. And we did one of those jump bumps, as I like to call them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was Josh Henderson or Deontay Ewing or somebody like that was talking smack. And I scored, and I spiked the heck out of that football and yelled. And, man, Ryan came running. He's like, man, yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, there was some fun memories with that, man.
That was a fun year. That was probably my favorite year at Lawndale.
Oh, yeah. Well,
no doubt about it.
Lawndale, well, I loved Church Street was my favorite school, but then Lawndale was just so much fun there, especially recess with that stuff we're talking about. Then there was the harsh reality of middle school.
Did you ever play any soccer at Church Street? Really? Because let me tell you, Chris.
Never did soccer.
Let me tell you, that's all we played at Thomas Street during PE. Out on that field, that's all we did was play soccer.
I'm surprised we did.
See, that's how I got into soccer, and that's why I played for 2 years.
And see, I never got into it because we never. I'm surprised we didn't play soccer on that field.
I know it.
It's right there, but
I know it.
I don't remember us doing it.
Then you got that track out there.
Yeah, we did run around the track a lot.
Oh, I bet.
So that was mostly what they did.
Well, that's a no-brainer there. But wasn't Church Street the middle school at one point?
Well,
and then the middle school was the high school? I know the middle school was the high school.
I think way back, Church Street was the high school.
Okay, that's it.
And then the high school moved to where Milam.
Wow. Is now. Yeah.
That's where the high school was when Elvis was alive.
I'll be dang.
And then I guess at that point, Church Street was maybe the middle school or elementary school, whatever. Okay. And then, of course, the high school moved to the middle school, and then the middle school now the high school is the high school. So it's moved several times.
Yeah. While adding a lot of lower and upper elementary.
Oh, yeah.
In between.
So many schools, which is a good thing. We're probably going to need more in the future because it's just keeps more and more people.
Yes. Tupelo is continually growing.
Which is nice. But so that was my playing days, and it kind of I threw it in with the baseball because I just played baseball competitively, and not for much, but that's what it was. Now, shortly after that 1999 season, a year later, 2000 rolls around, and I loved playing with little toy cars like Hot Wheels and stuff. I mean, it was
I did too.
It was I think it was a lot of time cheap, generic Hot Wheels, but still.
I used to show out with the PT Cruiser Hot Wheel. Oh, Chris, did you ever have the Hot Wheels that you could put at the starting line, and you could put it up against the track that spun around like a roller coaster, and you pressed the button, and the car went.
Yeah.
Made the loop and all of that.
Oh yeah, I had one of those.
I figured you did. I did too. But yeah, I used to love that PT Cruiser.
Yeah, I had one of those.
I don't know why, but I always picked. And it was what's crazy is it was a purple PT Cruiser. That's probably why I like Mace Windu so much in Star Wars with the purple lightsaber. But
you don't really think of a kid liking PT Cruisers, but
well, I was a kid, so that's so there you go.
Okay, got the purple PT Cruiser going on.
Purple rain. Some Prince going on.
But yeah, my granddad, knowing that I liked these cars, decided one year I guess 2000, in October of 2000 for my birthday, he decided to get, I think he found it used. It was a 1996 Dale Jarrett 1/24th scale car.
Oh, wow.
So it was, one of the really nice metal cars where the hood comes up and everything, the die cast. And it, like I said, it was that blue. He got it because it was blue. It was blue and red, that Quality Care paint scheme that DJ had in the late 90s up until 2000. So he got me that car just for me to play with, and I thought it was like the coolest thing. So
it was at that time.
Oh yeah.
Now it's nothing but phones and video games, video game consoles.
Yeah, true.
A lot has changed since we were kids, Chris.
Oh my gosh.
We used to find, inventive ways to keep ourselves entertained, so to speak.
Yeah. Well,
not the case now because everything's there.
And I did play some computer games in the late 90s, but man, yeah, I still like get on the floor and just play with cars. That was so much fun.
Yeah, I remember you used to really be big into computer gaming.
Oh, because my dad put a computer in my room when I was like in maybe like 96 or 97.
Wow.
He put a computer in there and like gave me games to play and stuff. So I was like playing SimCity and Railroad Tycoon way back in the 90s.
Man, I never knew that. I never knew that. That's very interesting there.
Yeah, so but I mean I still obviously loved playing with just cars and action figures and all that. So
but action figures, that's another one.
Yeah. My granddad gave me that, and it was actually like a lot of times I'd kind of play rough with those cars, but it was like so cool I didn't want to like mess it up and like knock the paint off or whatever. So I mean I'd play with it, but not as rough as I'd play with the other cars. And I asked my dad like what it was, and because I knew it wasn't just a regular thing, and he explained how there's like racing and that like people actually drive cars and race against each other.
Mm-hmm.
And back in the day, he watched a little bit of like Richard Petty. He was like a casual Petty fan. He didn't watch every week or anything, so he knew about NASCAR. So he decided, when I asked about it, he showed me on TV at some point later that season, and there it was, that blue Dale Jarrett car. The paint scheme was slightly different. The logo on the front on the hood was a little bit different, but there it was. So that was when I kind of started following NASCAR. Now I had no idea what was going on at the time, but it's also kind of unfortunate that I didn't get into it a little bit earlier because Dale Jarrett won the 1999 championship. So then I just started watching the year after he won the championship, and like I didn't even know how that worked or anything in 2000.
How about that?
So I kind of got to see Dale Jarrett on his decline towards retirement.
Dang.
But still, he had a few more good years left.
Didn't he drive the UPS car?
Yeah, that's 2001.
Okay.
The first year that I start like knowing what's going on, like I learned about it in the off season. So when 2001, when Daytona came in 2001, I was like ready to watch the whole season and know what was happening.
Yes.
That was when
pardon the pun, but you were geared up for it.
Yes. I was ready to go. And Dale Jarrett, that he had a new sponsor at the time. I think it was the most lucrative sponsorship contract signed when UPS came on. And of course, I mean, I have some like really vague memories of the 2000 season of seeing the quality care car. But the first race that I remember really watching, and like it was yesterday because of just everything that happened, was that 2001 Daytona 500.
Yes.
I mean, first of all, it was an amazing race. There was so much passing. It was super competitive. And I remember with like 20 laps to go, or 20 or 30 something laps to go, there was that huge wreck with Tony Stewart. It was the big one, and it actually caught up my driver, Dale Jarrett. But Tony Stewart like flipped and did all this, and that was when I realized, like, oh my God, this is a dangerous
sport
thing.
Yeah.
This huge wreck, and these guys are still like going after it. And even though that took out my guy, I was like, I want to keep watching to see the end of this and see what happens.
Yeah.
And it was just an amazing story because at the front you have the top two drivers drive, which I was kind of learning about this as it was happening, but the front two drivers, Michael Waltrip and Dale Earnhardt Jr., drove for Dale Earnhardt Incorporated. And then in third place, you had Dale Earnhardt himself, who was like blocking the cars behind from passing. So he was like, keeping his two cars that he owned in first and second.
Yeah.
And we didn't know at the time, but the story goes that he told Waltrip and Jr. the day before, like, we're going to come to the end of this thing, and y'all are going to be first and second.
I heard about that, Chris, not too long ago.
And y'all are going to push each other to win the race, whoever's first and second.
Because I watched, there's this show on Reels called Autopsy.
Okay.
And they did Dale Earnhardt's.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that story being told.
Yeah.
About that. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, that's
because I heard about that as well.
That's how they say it goes. And of course, I mean, there was so many stories going on. This was the first race that Darrell Waltrip was on the broadcast team. It was Fox's first race. So Darrell Waltrip is doing one of the announcers as his brother Michael Waltrip, like on the last lap, comes around and wins his very first race.
How about that?
Dale Earnhardt Jr. finishes second, but of course, in turn 4, Dale Earnhardt still blocking the cars to not pass.
Yeah,
he unfortunately gets turned by Sterling Marlin and then collects Ken Schrader, and the angle that he hits the wall, it didn't look bad. It looked nowhere near as bad as the wreck with Tony Stewart.
Right.
But he hit at just the right angle where at the time with the seat belts and the safety wasn't quite as good. It broke.
Oh, yeah.
That bone at the base of the skull.
I
forgot what the injury is called exactly, but of course it killed him.
Yeah, that was on that Autopsy.
Yeah.
As well.
And it killed several other, like I remember when Adam Petty died the year before. Just because it was a Petty name and my dad showed it to me.
Yeah.
Kenny Irwin died. So there were a lot of deaths around that time. Blaze Alexander in one of the lower series. So that was,
and obviously they've done a better job.
Oh yeah,
of protecting drivers now.
That was the last straw, and NASCAR really worked to improve safety with better barriers and cars. But that again, that like just a few laps earlier, it had the thought, man, this is actually really dangerous. And then
that happened.
Dale Earnhardt actually died, and I was already hooked from the start of that race with how exciting things were. And I guess something about it just felt like the most magical sport to me. I mean, some people will say that like racing isn't a sport or whatever, and I don't really care to get in those arguments, but it's so difficult you're in these hot cars with no air conditioning, and I mean, they have a little air hose and water and stuff, but I don't know, it's just so physically demanding and so much skill goes into it. And I learned all about that in that race, and of course also the dangers associated with it. And I'm glad that we're mitigating the dangers. I don't want the danger to be like the reason to watch it.
Yeah.
But it really put everything in perspective of just how crazy this sport was. And of course baseball was the first sport I started watching, but pretty quickly NASCAR became my favorite sport after that. because that 2001 season as a whole was just amazing. There were so many close finishes and great storylines, like when Kevin Harvick won in Dale Earnhardt's former car at Atlanta shortly thereafter. Dale Earnhardt Jr. came back at Daytona in July and won the race at the same track.
Okay.
Dale Jarrett was like battling for the points lead up until towards the end of the season, and then I was so angry because Jeff Gordon ran away with it at the end of the season.
Yeah, my favorite driver.
Yeah, so and that was really the last big hurrah for Dale Jarrett. The first year I was watching, and just a lot of great memories. I wish I could have seen Dale Earnhardt more, but of course I wasn't able to. But still, I saw some great NASCAR seasons there early on, and Dale Jarrett saw his last win on TV when it was at Talladega in 2005. I remember that like it was yesterday. After he retired, I stuck with when he went to Michael Waltrip Racing, I stuck with the same car and rooted for David Rudiman. He got a couple of wins, but then kind of lost that ride, and I didn't really have anybody to root for there for a while until my previous second favorite driver, Carl Edwards, went to Joe Gibbs Racing, who I liked both of them, so I started rooting for Carl Edwards, and now after Carl Edwards suddenly retired, I was stuck with Daniel Suarez. So those have been my drivers going through, and I still love NASCAR and have expanded to other motorsports today. Speaking of Dale Jarrett losing that championship, 2001, that makes me think, up until that point, I was used to just seeing my guys, like the Yankees, won the World Series every year that I started watching. And Dale Jarrett was battling for that points win. I was like, oh, man, so sports is just you sit and watch your favorite people win the championship. This is great. But then, of course, Dale Jarrett lost that championship, and the Yankees lost 2001 World Series to the Diamondbacks, and I was like, oh.
Losing does happen.
Yeah, losing happens.
To your favorite teams or drivers.
Yeah, so those are where it started. I guess I'll move on to college. I didn't watch college football. Like I said, I didn't care about my dad watching Peyton. When my dad watched Peyton play with the Colts when I was little, I didn't care. I don't know why. I just didn't. But then Eli, of course, starts playing for Ole Miss.
Yes.
And my dad, of course, is watching the Ole Miss games. And I don't know if it's because it was in Mississippi or because I finally heard the story or I paid attention to Archie and Peyton and the whole Manning story.
Just like with me, Chris. It's very ironic.
Yeah. So
same thing happened to me.
I think that
I touched on.
Yes. I guess that's kind of what led into me actually starting to pay attention.
Same here, brother. The exact same thing happened to me. I swear it did.
Yeah. Now I was just barely slightly before you because I watched that 2001 season.
Yes.
Because I can remember like yesterday. I mean, I have some vague memories of that season, but I can remember like yesterday that Arkansas game when they went 7 overtimes and lost.
Yeah.
I was at my grandparents' house watching that, and I was so mad.
I finally, as I got into Ole Miss sports and Ole Miss football in particular, I finally went back and watched that game, and went through those overtimes.
Oh, it was a great game, but I was just so mad.
Was it? But yeah.
Which, I mean, how fitting. Arkansas is like the biggest thorn in our side to to have heartbreaking losses and weird stuff happen.
The 4th and 25 that kept us from not only an SEC championship berth, but a possible SEC championship.
Exactly.
Which would have put us in the playoff, and then we would have had an opportunity to win a national championship. We win the semifinal game.
Yeah, like when that game happened, I literally thought about the 7 overtime.
Oh, no doubt.
Loss.
No doubt. And then you think of the game not too long, a couple years back when Shea Patterson was hurt, and they started Jordan Ta'amu, the backup, and he had an incredible game. And Ole Miss had a double-digit lead, and then Arkansas comes back in the second half or fourth quarter, just second half in general, comes back and beats us when we had a pretty sizable lead.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally the following year we turned the tables on them because it was the exact same thing, except this time they were up by double digits at half, and then we came back in the second half.
Mm-hmm. Well,
but that's the only time that I ever remember, us getting the better of them.
Yeah, it always feels like they're breaking our hearts.
And then they forced Matt Corral to commit 6 turnovers last season, which that was the worst game that Matt Corral had up to that point.
Yeah.
So they just, like you said, they're the thorn in our side, and they certainly have our number.
And the only other game I really remember that year is that loss in the Egg Bowl, which is kind of
that was the first Ole Miss game, like I said, that I ever watched.
Yeah, I remember being at a hotel. We were on vacation somewhere. I remember being at a hotel and watching that happen. How weirdly fitting that the only 2 games I remember from that season are the
2 losses.
Yeah, I was so mad. I
2
guess that's
close
why I remember.
losses. Yeah.
But of course, I kept watching it after that, and I just had so much fun watching Eli at Ole Miss in 2003.
That was a great time too.
God, 2000.
Be a fan.
Oh yeah, 2000, and then 2003 came along, and it was just what could have been type season.
No doubt.
So frustrating, but also good memories.
Every game they lost was close.
Yeah, and they still had a chance, even at that LSU game, to go to Atlanta, but
the
stepped on his foot.
Also, the Ole Miss kicker ended up being the Lou Groza Award winner as the nation's top kicker. Hadn't missed a field goal all season long. He misses 2 field goals in that game, and guess how much they lost by? 3 points.
Yeah. Just typical.
We are Ole Miss.
Yeah, I was about to say typical we are Ole Miss style season, but still, though, I can remember that season like it was yesterday.
They definitely can turn it around in baseball, though, if they get rid of their coach. I'm just saying.
Oh, well, yeah, they've got the pieces in place.
You can win in baseball at Ole Miss.
Well, and expanding on that, well, I guess I will say after Eli graduated, I followed him to the Giants. I was more of an Eli fan than a Giants fan, but I, of course, was rooting for the Giants.
You already know me too, because I'm not a Giants fan anymore. after what they did to that man.
Well, I'm not
at the end of his career. Yeah, I'm still a little butthurt about that.
Yeah, I'm not as upset about that as you are.
He deserved better.
Yeah, I wish that
no doubt about it.
I wish he'd been willing to maybe go to another team, but I just don't think he
didn't want to. He had that motto: once a giant, always a giant.
Yeah, so
you got to respect that.
I mean, I have a soft spot for the memories of, watching the Giants win those Super Bowls. I was so nervous in 2007. Oh my gosh,
and
that was the most.
Eli Manning is the only quarterback to beat the GOAT Tom Brady in 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah, and what a game those 2 Super Bowls were, especially 2007 when you got the helmet catch and
upset what were the undefeated Patriots from a perfect season.
It was just an amazing game, and but yeah. So I followed the Eli at the Giants after that. I still to this day like college football more, but
oh yeah, me
I really
too.
enjoyed watching Eli at the Giants. Now to what you were talking about earlier. Coincidentally, I didn't start watching Ole Miss baseball until about that 2005 team.
That 2005 team, like you said,
it was so good.
Woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Yeah.
They blow that super regional, and guess who it was to? The eventual national champion, the Texas Longhorns.
Yep.
Then a Texas player gets on the NCAA baseball game cover like we touched on a couple of episodes ago, and it very well could have been like a Stephen Head from Ole Miss, because that team definitely had championship DNA. It's just they
Didn't quite get there.
They didn't do it.
Yep.
They didn't do it. But yeah, woulda, coulda, shoulda. We are Ole Miss.
Yeah, and
You still love them though.
Started watching every year after that, and it's been kind of like deja vu most years following 2005.
Yeah, there's been a lot of heartbreak, but there's been some good memories there as well.
Oh yeah.
For sure.
Sticking with Ole Miss is a couple of years later. I really didn't start watching basketball, like college basketball, until 2007, because like the earliest player I really remember watching was Chris Warren. And
speaking of Chris Warren, that 2007 team was just decimated by injuries, and that prior to Andy Kennedy's last year, that was the only worst season that he had was in 2007. I mean, his team got hit by the injury bug. There was 3 starters that missed significant time.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, basketball was always, of the big 3 sports, baseball or football, baseball, and basketball. Basketball was always kind of the last one there for me. So that's probably why it was last. And I don't remember it quite as well in like 07, 08, but of course I've kept following it since then. And a lot of NIT games. a lot of NIT appearances.
That was Andy Kennedy's calling card for the postseason. You could bet your bottom dollar that he would get his Ole Miss Rebel team into the National Invitational Tournament.
Yeah, Ken IT was like his
nickname. Yeah, Kit.
And those were really the main sports for a chunk there.
And he took Ole Miss to 2 Final Four appearances in the NIT.
Oh yeah, they do good once they
had
got
an
there.
opportunity to do a 3rd one, but he lost to Georgia Tech on his own home floor, which is something he never did. It seemed like he always won at home.
Yeah,
but he lost to Georgia Tech that night.
I would very, very loosely. I've kept up with. Since I started watching college basketball, I'll keep up with the Grizzlies just because they're close in Memphis.
Yeah, that's actually my adopted NBA team now.
Yeah.
And of course, you touching on Ole Miss basketball, I've been pulling for Terrence Davis, who's now with the Sacramento Kings, who just so happened to follow me on Twitter.
Oh,
not that long ago.
Nice. Yeah, I mean,
so I thought that was really neat.
He's definitely a player that we kind of keep an eye on, and I hope wherever he goes, I want to do well.
No doubt, because he's certainly the only former Ole Miss Rebel player that's playing in the league.
Yeah.
For sure, because Ole Miss basketball just doesn't have that history of producing NBA-level talent.
Now, I did see where Chris Warren is currently playing in French basketball, which good for him.
Oh, wow. So
he's still playing, actually.
That's great. So apparently he moved on from the Aussie oi league in Australia. Australia, mate.
He got tired of playing upside down in the land down under.
Apparently so.
But yeah,
he had to go to France.
I was basically stuck there with sports for a while until 2015.
Oui.
I decided to I love motorsports so much. I was like, I need to branch out and watch more than just NASCAR. So I started watching. Okay. Well, for years.
IndyCar?
Well, no, I was about to say, for years I've watched the Indianapolis 500 IndyCar race, but I've never had any real desire to watch a whole season of IndyCar. The problem a lot of the times is the NASCAR race is at the same time as the IndyCar race.
That's right.
So that's the main issue there. I do try to keep up with it a bit now, but it's hard. especially watching the races because I want to watch NASCAR. But
Right.
in 2015, I really began closely following Formula One. I had some of the video games back in the day, but I didn't really know much. But I've been watching it on TV since 2015. It's been Mercedes dominance this whole time. Like this
Okay.
year might be the first time that somebody not Mercedes wins the championship that I've been watching.
Huh.
But I really enjoy Formula One. The nice thing is the races are usually at a time earlier in the morning where it doesn't conflict with NASCAR, so I can get open wheel in the morning and then NASCAR stock car in the afternoon
Okay.
or evening. So I've been watching that. Really, the only other change is since Eli retired. I mean, again, I'm not bitter about that or anything, but I knew that I kind of needed to find a team I actually wanted to root for as a team. So I kind of just defaulted to rooting for the Titans since they're in Nashville
Yeah.
and close. And it also helps, I'm not going to lie, that A.J. Brown is there. So it's nice
no
to
doubt.
see him being
No doubt. And-
successful there.
And because Eli is retired, I still haven't adopted an NFL team. So I'm still searching for a team to root for consistently.
Yeah. I mean, there's a bunch of,
So
in all these sports, there's a bunch of teams I like that aren't necessarily my favorite. Like in
yeah.
in baseball, in 2011, my good buddy Corey and I went to Seattle, and we were fortunate enough to his dad knew somebody who got us seats like right on the front row
Man.
behind between the dugouts.
Yeah.
And we were closer to the Phillies side, but I got
Okay.
like I remember seeing Dwight Howard, or not Dwight Howard.
Ryan Howard, the first baseman.
Yeah, I remember seeing Ryan Howard like in the batter's circle, and that was so cool. I had
yeah.
such a good experience at that game. I kind of became I guess a Mariners fan. I like the Mariners. I'm happy that experience was so cool. It's kind of like
Oh, no doubt.
it was
yeah.
almost like that Yankees experience in New York, but
Okay.
the Yankees are still my favorite team. It's just I have a soft spot for the Mariners.
Yeah.
I have a soft spot for the Cubs because my buddy J Mike likes the Cubs.
Ayo.
Even one of my neighbors across the street where I live, he likes the Cubs.
That's right.
And
Dang, I completely forgot about that, Chris.
yeah, so because of that, I've sort of kept up with the Cubs over the years,
Yeah.
and whenever they got a chance, I root for them, and they're another
Yeah.
team that I have a soft spot for. And I'll say it. I'll say they're my favorite National League team.
All
I guess I'll
right.
put it that way.
Yes, sir.
And that's why
go
I so
Cubs,
bad-
go, baby.
That's why I so badly want to see a Yankees Cubs World Series one
Which we
day.
should have gotten in 03.
Yeah, that would have been nice.
And I remember listening to that MLB draft that we touched on a couple of episodes ago. And, of course, they're right next to each other in the draft order. And I remember the guys on the broadcast were like, these two historical franchises.
Oh yeah.
And the first thing that hit me was, man, we should have had that showdown in the World Series in 2003.
But no, we had to have. It's amazing how the Marlins can be crap.
Get hot in the playoff.
Well, they'll be crap for years, and then they'll get this young group of guys together in '97 to go on a tear and win the World Series. Then they're crap again.
And a team with nothing to lose
Well, yeah, and then
is the team
yeah,
you need to watch out for.
because 2003 rolls around, and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, here are the Marlins again.
Yeah, they upset the Giants, who were the number one seed
Yep.
in the National League side of the playoff.
Now they have yet to repeat that magic again.
Right.
They've done it twice. We'll see what happens. Coincidentally, Derek Jeter up in that organization now.
But see, that obviously would have been a World Series where we would have been fine with whoever won it,
Yeah, like
for sure.
that would have been something. I mean, and now as well. Like if the Yankees and Cubs, I mean, I'll be going for the Yankees, but if the Cubs win, I'll still be like I'll be happy for you and
Yeah,
everything.
Same, and
so
same goes with me.
So,
but both of our teams are struggling right
no,
now.
I doubt that'll happen this year. Just saying.
Yeah. But yeah.
And now the heavens are falling and it's raining quite heavy outside, so I don't know if you'll hear that. But I'm trying to think. That's really all there is to it. That's pretty much my sports history of playing and watching sports. As you notice, it's a lot more watching than playing, but I enjoyed both. I just knew that I was probably going to be watching sports eventually anyway because not quite athletic enough. But, yeah, so go Yankees, go, well, NASCAR as a whole, but Daniel Suarez. I also have a soft spot for Matt DiBenedetto. I know he's looking for a ride now, but we'll see where that goes.
You've really touched on him a lot on your Twitter handle.
Yeah,
that I've seen.
Yeah, so we'll see where he can land. Maybe he'll get a decent ride, but it'll be kind of tough because there's so many people looking for rides next year. Go Titans. Go Grizzlies, even though I admit that I'm not the biggest Grizzlies fan. I just kind of loosely pay attention to the NBA and what's going on.
Yes, which they had a exciting early playoff run there.
Yeah.
Where they won the 2 play-in games, and then they beat the top-seeded Utah Jazz in Game 1 of that series.
Yeah, was hoping that they would
but
go
lost the rest of the way, and then were eliminated. But
yeah, I was really hoping they'd go on a surprise tear there, but it wasn't meant to be.
But they've got an exciting young core there.
Yeah, so, I mean, in the future, who knows? Maybe they'll be back in the thick of things.
Yeah.
And I'm hopeful that the Titans can be.
Yeah, after being in the AFC Championship game 2 years ago and just acquiring Julio Jones to go along with to complement A.J. Brown and that wide receiving group.
Yeah. And then things are also looking up for Ole Miss football.
For once.
Yeah. Feels good to see that again. So hopefully they'll continue that. Things are looking good for Daniel Suarez at Trackhouse. That team is, just starting out and they're moving up. Ole Miss baseball, we'll see about that. I don't know. It's going to be a tough rebuilding year.
Yeah.
Ole Miss basketball, I love Kermit Davis, but Ole Miss basketball, not a whole lot of history there.
Yeah.
So maybe he can kind of turn things around as far as that goes, which he did great his first year.
He did.
He really improved that team.
He did, and he got a couple of big transfers that have come into the program, so
yeah,
maybe they can contribute and help Ole Miss get back to the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I was about to say, at least hopefully dip their toe back into that tournament.
Because this COVID-shortened season really messed, really put them on the outside looking in.
Yeah, it really messed with them
in a big way.
It was a disappointing season,
and also with them losing the games that they were favored to win and should have won fairly easily, put them in a hole as well, to where they had to make a deep run in the SEC tournament, and they just fell short to LSU in that quarterfinal game, which took them out of a NCAA tournament berth and put them in the NIT.
Yeah, back in the familiar ground. But I believe in Kermit, so.
Oh, I do too.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Don't believe in Bianco.
Yeah, we can go back. I forgot what episode number that was, but you can find it's in the title or description talking about Bianco. So.
Yeah. For our listeners who would like to go back and listen to that,
it was the final coaching update for the college baseball season.
So yeah, feel free to go back and listen to that.
Well, and
show
along those lines, feel free to follow us on Twitter. Sport Fanatics is our handle.
Yes.
Same as the way it's spelled in the show title.
Yes, please follow us, people.
Yeah. You can find me at Christopheles11, Chris Topholes11 on Twitter. It's really the only social media I use. What about you, J. Mike?
Well, please feel free to add me as a friend on Facebook if you would like. My name is John Michael McBunch, and you can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter. My handles are the same on both accounts, and it is at J_MikeCheck.
All right, well, cool. And I'll close off by saying thank you for listening to my story and sitting through my my history of what I've watched and where I've come from as far as sports goes. And thank you, J. Mike, for we've had a lot of memories as far as sports and being together on playing and watching.
And what I love about it, Chris, is that you and I became friends and brothers by playing a sport.
Yeah, you're really you're my only friend who that's the case for, which is unique.
How about that
in my friend group? Yeah,
but yeah, it's just very, very ironic, of course. But you and I have always been connected through sports, and which has led to us doing this Sport Fanatics podcast, which
is so fitting.
I have thoroughly enjoyed doing this with you, my brother.
Same.
Thank you for everything that you do with the podcast. And, like I've stated before, this train surely ain't stopping.
No.
We're only going to go forward. We're going to continue to go forward. It seems like you and I are getting better with each show, and
more comfortable.
And you and I love talking sports because we've always had that bond with sports. So it's just been very. It's also been very great for you and I to share our stories to our listeners.
It's been nice to go through and kind of dissect.
Yep.
That
go back and relive the past.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Yeah.
In a good way.
And along those lines, I mean, thank you for being a part of this. And
man, you know me, I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to do a podcast because my dream is to be a broadcast announcer or just someone on TV and radio,
right?
In general, but I've had a blast doing the show with you, man.
Well, I'm glad to hear it, and thank y'all for listening to us. And
yes, thank you, listeners. We certainly thank you.
And y'all just have a good day and take care.
Till next time.